For the average American soldier or sailor in the Pacific, the most cherished base was not a port or an airfield. It was a mythical place, described in rumors and yearned for in every letter. It was called the Furlough, a promised week of leave in Australia or New Zealand. For most, it remained a story told by others, a dream that powered them through the nightmare. The myth began with truth. Early in the war, especially after the Guadalcanal campaign in late 1942, shattered Marine and Army units were indeed rotated south to Melbourne, Sydney, or Auckland for rest and refit. The stories these men brought back to the front lines became legend. They spoke of hot showers that lasted more than 30 seconds, steaks that weren't canned, beer that was cold, and women who spoke English. They described cities with electric lights, music, and no threat of sniper fire. It was described not as another country, but as a portal back to the world, a place called the other side of the world. This rumor of respite became a psychological lifeline. In the foxholes of New Guinea and the cramped quarters of destroyers, men would talk about it. When we get off this rock, they say we're shipping south. It was a specific, tangible hope to cling to, more motivating than the vague concept of winning the war. The military command understood its value. The promise of a furlough was an unspoken reward, a tool for morale as calculated as any ammunition shipment. But for the vast majority, it was a mirage. As the war accelerated and troop numbers swelled into the millions, the logistics of providing real leave to a meaningful portion of them became impossible. The ships needed to ferry men to Australia were needed to carry divisions to the next invasion. The beautiful, peaceful cities down south could not possibly absorb the tide of weary, desperate men. The furlough transformed from a policy into a privilege, granted to a tiny few often, the veterans of the earliest, most brutal campaigns or those suffering from severe combat fatigue. For every soldier who actually walked the streets of Sydney, 100 others only held the dream. They would see the lucky ones board a transport ship with clean uniforms, watched with a mixture of envy and shared hope. The departing men became ambassadors of the myth, their leaving proof the place was real. Those left behind would renew the pact. Our turn will come after the next big push. This collective dream created an invisible mobile base of morale. It had no headquarters, no commander, and no supply line. It was built from gossip, letters from buddies who had gone, and the military's own promotional films, showing soldiers dancing with Australian women. It was a base built entirely in the soldier's mind, but its effects were very real. It kept men sane. It gave them a future point on their mental calendar that wasn't death or injury. It was a shared story that bound them together. When the war ended, most men went directly home to America, never having seen the furlough paradise they had talked about for years. Yet, in a way, the myth had served its purpose perfectly. It wasn't a place you needed to reach. It was a story you needed to believe in to keep going. The greatest base in the Pacific wasn't made of coral or steel. It was made of a whispered promise. There is still a place that is normal, and you might get to see it. In the economy of human spirit, that promise was the most valuable supply of all.